I am here today talking to the glamorous Oonagh Duncan, the author of what's it called still? Healthy as Fuck, right? Because I know you had a title change.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, that's a whole story. So yeah, it was published under Healthy as Fuck. And then I can talk about how it went for sales and stuff like that, but it did really well everywhere with the US, that tiny little insignificant market, the US. So so then they were like, my US publisher, I had publishers in all different regions, which we can also talk about. They said, you know what? We just don't think we can sell it because it's got a swear word in it. And meanwhile, I go into every, what do you guys have? Barnes and Noble. That's it, right? Every Barnes and Noble, and there's literally a wall of fuck books and get your shit together. And I was like, really? Because it seems like anyway. So they said Americans just aren't buying the fuck. So what they did was this is kind of interesting. They ran Facebook ads with tons and tons of variations of titles and covers. And what the American population picked was Ditch the Diet with a picture of bok choy, which was not my vision. But I was like, okay, the Americans have spoken. The publishers know best. Let's go with Ditch the Diet and the bok choy. And it tanked. So I was like, it was not the title. Anyway, so I always call it Healthy as Fuck, and then I have in brackets Ditch the Diet in paperback. It's still in hardcover in the US under Healthy as Fuck, but paperback Ditch the Diet.
All right. I love all right. So we worked together on your book proposal, and there were a lot of questions that we had to talk through when we were working on the proposal. And you had the title, I think you were talking Healthy as Fuck from the very beginning. And one of the questions that we were deciding upon is, do we talk like we talk in real life? So both you and I have potty mouths. So, I mean, I think that's one of the reasons we automatically gravitated towards each other. And I'm of the opinion that you want to share with your reader who you are, what you're like in real life, so that they can connect with you. And that means you are going to drive certain people off. But just speak to that decision of how hard it was to really come to that decision, knowing you were going to put certain people off.
Yeah, and it wasn't even put certain people off. As we did find in the States, it closes you off to some mainstream media, some podcasts, some reviews. Haven't had as much. So I can be on the CBC, which is the Canadian government, and they say, here we are with author Oonagh Duncan, author as healthy as, well, I'll let you fill in the blanks. Like, so they do that, but I don't know if they said they couldn't get it to air on American Airlines or American Airways at all. So I knew that we would be making a choice. And there was definitely been some sacrifices in making that choice. I also have people who just bounce as soon as they see the title because they're like, no. But I also have reviews of people being like, I pushed through the title. It really turned me off, but I'm so glad I did. So anyway, I knew I'd be turning people off, but here's why I chose it anyway, because I knew that the people who'd be attracted to that title would be attracted to all the shit that I had to say. And also I found when I was looking for health and wellness resources for myself, when I was desperately in need of help with this, I would try and look it up, and it would either be like super medical journals and that, just blank, or it would be some like influencer who's like, you go girl, and like too airy fairy, like whatever. So I was like, no, I just want like an informed best friend to sit me down and be like, listen the fuck up. Here's the real deal. And that was the vibe, the tone that I wanted to give the book.
Yeah, and I think you absolutely pulled it off. And I want to emphasize that you were not cavalier about this. So first of all, tell us about your book, what the design of the book was for the reader. So it's about it's diet, but you were very, very concerned about putting off those people who didn't want the whole diet culture. To that, like what it is to write a diet book when your target market is screaming about the diet culture.
Yes. Yes. Well, I think we did have a subtitle that says ditch the diet, which is why that ended up being the title of the second. A ditch the diet, join the revolution or something like that. I can't even remember my own subtitle. That's stupid. But anyway, it says something like that. So, but here's the kind of three parts of the book. And you asked about the structure. So part one is get your head out of your ass. And that is all the mindset stuff that everybody's like, no, 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 like, I don't need that. I really just need to like the diet. I'm like, no, shut up. You need the mindset stuff. So part one is get your head out of your ass. And we talk about things like, actually what you want is a feeling. It's not a, weight on the scale. And we talk about all the mindset stuff. Then part two is just tell me what the fuck to do to get skinny already. And that's where I give you the like brass tacks of it. I go through the 7 habits of highly healthy motherfuckers. And then part three is how not to be a big fat quitty McQuitter face. And that is how to stay on top of the habits and not quit. So that was kind of the basic structure.
So when I thought it was awesome because we spoke a lot about that diet culture thing and how to go about doing this. And I remember you and I having a big debate about this. It's like if we fully give in to, ban the diet, let's stop trying this, then are we adding to health problems down the road for, even North America? Let's call it North America.
Yeah.
That was the key to tip you over to, yeah, I think we do have to address this. I think we do have to speak directly to it, even though it's going to put off people who don't want this.
Oh, 100%. Yeah. And my background is actually as a fat activist. So someone who advocates for, lack of discrimination for people with excess body fat. Like that was my background. And so then I became a fitness instructor. So I had this huge kind of breadth of experience of talking to these different issues. And I talk about why I decided to go from someone who was, advocating for fat people to someone who's like, actually, I have a system that's going to help you lose extra weight. And this is why you might want to do that. And it's not a fattest decision to do that.
Yeah, I agree. I also learned, I learned so much from you. First of all, I met my own all or nothing mindset.
Yes.
No, I did. And I met my own harsh judgment of myself, which became harsh judgment of others. And I also met that very strong idea that what we're doing is a series of habits. Who we become, a la James Clear in Atomic Habits, is a series of habits. And this is the identity we form with these habits. So it really did give me pause to consider. It's not, am I a good girl or am I a bad girl? It's like, do I have good habits or do I have bad habits?
Yeah, totally.
So if you could just speak a little bit to the idea of habit stacking and how this is essentially what this lifestyle that you're promoting and spelling out in your book can do for you.
Yeah, totally. I mean, this is so funny, Anne, because I think that's why we worked so well together. Is because like I'm your perfect customer avatar. I'm like insecure, want to be a book writer, like kind of like, oh God, can I do it? I don't know. I need Anne to hold my hand. And you're also like the super high achiever who like does everything right and blah blah blah. So you were exactly my avatar as well. And so about the habit stacking. So basically, a lot of my people come to me and they are successful in every area of their life except for this one thing. And then they get so pissed at themselves because they're like, wait a second, I should be able to freaking nail this. And they think that it's a matter of discipline and motivation and willpower. And so they're trying to like wrestle themselves and their body into submission because they are pretty successful at doing that in most areas. The problem is that discipline, motivation, and willpower, they require enormous energetic resources. So the moment that anything else comes up in your life, you have a deadline, you've got a family thing, you've got, insomnia, menopause hits, you've got like whatever, like all this stuff, whatever can happen, then you just do not have the extra energetic resources to pick yourself up with all the discipline and motivation and resource and willpower. What you need is habits. Habits are just automatic things that you do every single day. Like when's the last time you had to have like willpower to brush your teeth or discipline yourself to have a shower? You don't. You just do these things without thinking of them because they're who you are, and they are who you are because you have done them over and over and over and over again, and you don't have to think about them. They're automatic. So this is where I want to get people with their healthy habits. They don't have to think about it. It's automatic. And the way you know that is if you like, because a lot of people are like, oh, it's not a diet, it's a lifestyle. And if you say, okay, will you be doing that lifestyle 3 Tuesdays from now? Like, if they're like, oh, I'm eating healthy right now. Okay, are you going to eat healthy 3 Tuesdays from now? Most of the time they'll be like, well, I don't know. Like, it kind of depends. Like if I'm going to be traveling or who's like, what my schedule's like that day. Okay. But if it is who you are and you say, are you going to be healthy 3 Tuesdays from now? You're like, of course. I'm just a healthy eater. It's just what I do. There's never any question. I eat healthy on my birthday. I eat healthy when I've got guests over. I eat healthy when it's bad. It's just who I am. It's what I do. So that's where I want to get people to, so they don't have to use up their precious energetic resources to do these healthy habits.
And your book is awesome in that it's like so readable. It's so enjoyable. It's so funny. It's so you, which is what I think I love about the book the most, that it is so you. So I want to talk to you. You're welcome.
Well, big thanks to you. I just want to interject there because like, Anne, you pushed me to be more me. Like whenever I was like, God, should I say boner? You were like, say boner. Like you were like, harder, come on, like don't hold back. And so that's why it turned out the way it did, and why I have so many people saying that they laugh out loud and stuff. It's because you were like, yeah, no, put that in. That shit that you're scared to put in, you put that in there.
It's because it's so good, and because I am your avatar, and your avatar is gonna love that. When you came, you had an agent, or you were in conversations with an agent, and you knew that you needed a proposal. Can you speak to that? Because a lot of people are confused about, why write a book proposal? When do you do it?
Oh man.
Agent after. Just a little bit about that journey, if describing it would help people decide if that's the route that they want to go and what that looks like.
Sure. And I am like a little bit worried because there's a bunch of synchronicities and just beautiful moments of luck in my story that might be irritating to people who are like, okay, good for you. So here's what happened. So I had been blogging for years, and when I to a list of like very few people, my clients, my parents, whatever. And at one point I had someone on my list emailed me and said, hey, have you ever thought about writing a book? If you do, I would love to see your proposal. And they were the editor of a like super small niche Canadian press. But can you imagine, like as a wannabe writer my whole life, to have an editor at anywhere say, I would look at a proposal from you? I was like, oh my God. And then, so I parked that and I was so excited. I was like, someday I'm going to write that. And then I did that for, about 5 years until I was sitting down for dinner with a bunch of my clients. And one of my clients just casually mentioned, oh, I'm writing a book. And when someone says something that you want to do so badly, like my whole body was like, and this is what puked out of my mouth. I said, oh, I want to write a book too, but I don't have time. And as soon as I said it, I saw who I said it to. I saw it to a woman who is a university professor, has toddlers, is a rabbi, and a doula. And I told her I didn't have time. I felt so, and I said it in front of all my clients who are always telling me they don't have time to exercise. And I'm always like, you make time. So anyway, so as soon as I said it, I was like, oh, and she was really gracious. She just shrugged and she was like, oh, I don't have the time either. And I was like, I gotta write my fucking book. So that's how I was like, okay, so how do you write a book proposal? And then I just bought a book proposal template and started chipping away at it. And I thought, and I wrote back to that editor and I was like, I'll have it to you in 2 weeks or something stupid. It took 6 months. The book proposal took twice as long as writing the actual book. So I want all writers to hear that. The book proposal took a long freaking time. And I think it was in that process that I reached out to Anne, and you helped me so much because I didn't know what the fuck I was doing. And I was so scared. And I didn't know anything. Like there was a little bit of a template. So I had a little bit of the structure. So I kind of knew what my homework was, like write out a chapter sample or whatever, but I had no like, for example, you would say stuff like, you have to put your own story in there, otherwise they're not going to care about this. So I was like, oh, okay. Anyway, there was a million things that you helped me with in getting the proposal done. And then once the proposal was done, I sent it to them. And then I talked to a couple of friends of mine who were also published authors. And one of them sent it to another editor. And both editors said, I want it. And then I was like, oh, I have two editors who want my book. So now I know I'm going to make, like, it's going to be a moneymaker. It's going to sell. So then I talked to my friends who were authors and I said, introduce me to your agents, because I've got a definite sell here. And that's how I met my agent. So it sort of was a little bit of a backwards process. And then when I got my agent, he did so much more. Like, I was really hesitant about getting an agent, by the way. Do you want to hear about this? Is this helpful?
I do want to hear about that, because people don't know how this happens.
Yeah. So, and then when I got the agent, I was a little bit like, okay, well, do I need an agent? Because I already have, like, it will sell. And so why do I want to give 15% of it to this guy? Here's why. Because what that guy did is he, first of all, got a bidding war going on between them and some other publishers within Canada. And then he said, and standard publishing rights are like all English or whatever. And he was like, wait a second, I think we can do better than this. I'm going to get the Canadians to say, we'll take only Canada. And I'm going to try and sell it separately to the UK, Australia, New Zealand market, and separately to the American market. So we're actually going to sell this sucker 3 times at least. And then so he goes to the US and he's like, we got a bidding war for this in Canada, who wants it? And then he did that again in the UK. So that's why I have different publishers in all these different markets. Yeah. So he did way more with it than I ever could have, which is why. And he's also been a little bit of a cheerleader and, helped me through a lot of the process. So it was worth it for sure for me to get the agent, even though it was already sold.
I tell people this all the time. They're like, yeah, I've got a publishing house interested in my book. And I'm like, you're going to get an agent.
Yeah.
You're going to do it right now, because
no, for sure.
You don't even know how dumb you are.
Yeah.
And an agent knows this business inside and out. So you did it the right way. Also, what you described is pretty typical. Like, there's an element of luck.
Yeah.
There's that element of, you were writing and a blog and putting stuff out there, and all it takes, somebody gives you an idea and you start with the idea, listening, like suddenly you're hearing around you.
Yeah.
What it is that you want. You're starting to see that this stuff is going on, and that it's going on with people who are real people.
Totally.
And so there's work involved. There's a little bit of luck. There's also being in relationship. It's also being in conversation with people. It's also letting people know what it is that you want. And suddenly the resources descend upon you. Because I heard you talk about this book, and I'm like, yeah, straight over to you, because just my ideal client. So what comes next for you? You have this book out. You've done the title changes. The entire publishing industry is constantly evolving and constantly changing. What comes next, as by way of book, if at all? And how has this book, these are 2 questions, and how has this book brought business to you?
Oh my gosh. Okay, so what comes next? I was super keen to follow up Healthy as Fuck, because it was quite successful, and I got wooed by my publisher, who was like, we want a second book from you, and we actually see it being bigger than fitness, and we're gonna like this. They actually took me out for a fancy lunch and said, we want you to be the Canadian Tony Robbins. And I was like, I loved it so much. They knew like exactly what to say to me. I know. So I was just flying on that. And I wrote a proposal for a second book, which I did send to you. And I don't know if you remember, Anne, but it was shit. Like, it was what my agent says is a sophomore book. It's when you try and rush out a second book after a successful first book, but it's kind of half formed and you're a little like, how about this? If you liked that, So, and I had actually written a sophomore play. I wrote a play. It was a huge hit for a freaking play. And I was like, awesome. And then I had all these like amazing directors that wanted to work with me, and I got grants. So I like rushed out a next play the next season, and it was just garbage. So I was like, you know what? I'm going to skip the sophomore book, because I just know it's half formed. Like, when I wrote Healthy as Fuck, it came from, thousands of clients. And like at that point, I was like, okay, everybody shut up. I got something to say. But I'm not there yet. I'm like, stuff's starting to build that I want to say, but until I get to that point that I'm like, okay, this has got to get out there. I'm not going to just throw some shit out there.
The scope was too big. You were taking on a really huge scope, and until you
Yeah.
no, I mean, and you
Yeah.
and everybody else, right? You and every other human being.
Uh-huh.
But it's like when you get the right angle, when you get the right scope, then it is easier. But tell me,
I need to play with it more. I mean, and I play with it, the same content with the podcast. So I'll screw around with the same content with the podcast for a little bit. And then I'll probably be like, okay, here's the thread that I want to follow. And then I'm sure another book will come out of me at some point, but I'm not rushing it.
yeah. Tell me about what this book has done for your business.
Oh my gosh. Okay. So much. So first of all, I would say, I have like really great credentials, so before I had, fitness awards and stuff like that, but now I have like great media clips. I have great, the best-selling blah, blah, blah. I've got, I got a TEDx talk. I got like, so these kind of things that sort of amplify your credibility. So there's that for whatever that is, then, I will say, what else? For some reason, my book is free on Audible if you get the Audible subscription. I have no idea how that happened. I certainly don't get kickbacks for it, but whatever.
It's the way it is.
It's just the way it is. And so I have thousands of people who listen to it through that. And I would say probably like a good percentage of my clients now are people who find me after having heard the book. So it's a massive way to generate a warm audience, is what I will say.
Yeah, you're
not
out,
necessarily clients.
You're out
but
you're out the $1 an audio copy of your book, but that $1 that you're sacrificing is the one that's bringing in your clients that actually pay you money.
That's right. That's right. And so it's a great way to create a warm audience who's already familiar with me, who's already familiar with my philosophy. So they're easy clients too, because they come in, they know they're not going to, ask me if they're allowed to, I don't know, drink pop or whatever. Like they're not going to ask me if they're allowed to do anything, because they know I'm going to be like, I'm not going to give you permission for anything. You've got to sort this out yourself. So the mindset of the clients who come in, it's like, so much of the work is done. So that's another way that I read the book. So now when I have cold clients come in, and they come in through a webinar or something like that, always I use my book as a bonus, fast action bonus. If you book in the next 15 minutes, I'm going to send you a copy of my book. And it is a primer for exactly all the mindset stuff that I need them to know to have the most successful transformation in my program.
Yeah. See, that is where I think, like, people say, I don't know if I'm ready to write a book yet. And I will, this is the filter, is if you have enough sales conversations with people, and you have gotten tired of answering the same questions over and over again, and you wish you had something that could do the indoctrination, which is an awful word.
Yeah.
But it's, give your process, give your whole, your approach, how you look at things. If you could hand that to a client before they become a client, you just saved them and you a 3-hour-long conversation that, that maybe goes somewhere.
Totally. And don't be scared, because I think some people hold back from that because they're like, no, but then they'll just get the book and they'll do it on their own. Well, for one thing, I will say, so what? That's great. Like now I have testimonials of people who are like, I read your book, I lost 80 pounds. I'm like, oh my gosh, I am slapping that all over the internet. Like, that's great. Also, they probably won't, like, they'll just want more of you. Like, it's not like, I think we're kidding ourselves if we think we can hold back information and that we're going to convince people that we're the only keepers of this information. That's kind of bullshit. Like, all the information is out there. What we can do is we can guide people. We can, do all these other things, but we're like, there's no secret information. I don't think we have to hold back secrets like that.
Yeah. So one quick question. When you were promoting the book, right? You got a traditional deal. They liked the fact that you were going to market your book. They understood that you had a population who would buy your book. There was an understanding. When you have a traditional publishing house deal, there's an understanding that you're going to sell a certain number of copies. Was there a complication for you for a period of time where you had to be out promoting the book, but you couldn't be promoting the other aspects of your business, the courses or the memberships or whatever you had. Did you have any of that issue? And if you did, for how long did that last?
Oh man. I mean, definitely the conversation shifted to the book, but they're so intertwined. Like my course is just like the physical implementation of the lessons in my book. So it didn't feel like a conflict at all. As far as like actually being there and like my team knew Oonagh's on our book tour. Oonagh's like, that I was out. And I guess I will say it was very helpful that I had built my team and my business to the point that I could be like, guys, you're not going to hear from me for 3 weeks. I am in a book hole. So yeah, if
Were
I
you
was still actively running the business, that would have been very difficult.
Were you launching your programs and your memberships at the same time that you were launching the book and promoting the book?
Yep. Absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah.
And you just weren't combining the two, like you weren't bringing them together. You had two separate things going.
You know, I've always combined them. So every time I launch my program, it comes with the book. Every time I launch the book, I sell the program on the back end. Like there's it's always intertwined, which is again how the book has made me money. Like it's the best front end thing. It's the best bonus. It's the best yeah, they're completely intertwined.
Yeah, I got it. Because
Yeah.
I know that's always a question for people. And they're always like, you know, like the publishing house, the big publishing house is expecting me to sell this book. And if I start selling something else, am I going to get in trouble with them? And that's always tricky.
Oh no, my publishing house, I believe, yeah, I would say that they really appreciate that I have this higher end offer on the back end that allows me to put so many resources towards pushing the book.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
they love that because most authors are like, you know, I'll post a couple of times about this book, but what can I do? Like I can't run ads to a book that I'm getting 50 cents a book for or whatever. But I'm like, oh, I can because I know if you spend the 50 cents, then I'm also going to get 197 on the back end. 100%. I'll run that out all day long.
Yeah, that's why those relationships are made in heaven because of exactly that. Everybody has the resources to add to that.
Yeah.
So if there was a call to action to somebody who is thinking about writing a book or a piece of advice, what would you say to them?
Well, you know what, Anne, I'm going to go back to what the permission that you gave me when we were working on the proposal is that you were like, just send me cat shit. Do you remember that? You said, just send me cat shit. Cause I was like, cause you know, you just get all up in your head and you're like, I don't know if it's good enough. I don't know where this fits. And you're like, and you can just spiral or not create anything. And then you've got Anne who's like, send me cat shit. And when I would like send it, like she's like too polished, shittier. And so just to have the permission to just generate, that's all I had. That was my one and only job, is to generate cat shit and send it to Anne and she would come back. And so just that permission was unbelievable. So I guess my thing is like, if you think you want to write a book, just write like cat shit and send it to Anne or send it to whatever, like just publish it or write blogs or whatever. Just start writing. And that is your job. That's your only job. And you will be amazed at the stuff that can kind of trickle from that. But right now, your one job is just write, just get it out there. Yeah.
Yeah. I think
that's what I would say.
A piece of advice. Oonagh, I cannot thank you enough. I'm going to put a link where people can get your amazing book and
awesome,
you know, link to your website because people have to know you unless they're not interested in being healthy as fuck. And you know, but thank you so much, Oonagh, for spending the time.
Thank you. I am forever grateful to you. I would not have had this book and the career that I've had since because of you. So thank you.